Hey folks, doing a market internal review here for June 27th, 2023. After a couple days break, I'm just getting back into the swing of things here on taking a look at SPY. We had a gap up scenario from yesterday's close to today's open. Looking into where we were at on trend here, I noticed a potential balance indication with trend. We came in real hot on open with the add and vold already printing green and landing into some rather bright areas here on the add. One thing I noticed was that even though we crossed over on tick for the upside on the average closures, we're still seeing a balance on trend, and while we're printing a ton of breaks over 500 to the upside, price wasn't necessarily agreeing with that. We did stall out around yesterday's TWAP, and we also were taking a look at the price down here at the lower first standard deviation on yesterday's ending price. We did stall out there and reclaim current session TWAP and yesterday's TWAP value. So that was rather strong, but I will definitely be honest, the trend balance indication was definitely not making me a believer that we would see much of a move. Now, fortunately, we did see one to the upside, and I think that's great for the market. The thing that was interesting was just the overall price characteristics today. Just incredibly choppy on this morning session here, all the way into almost noon. We'll take a look at Qs here in a little bit, but I've noticed Q and SPY have had a bit of a divergence with their price, and today something definitely switched with that. We'll take a look into that, but the strat video I posted on the standard deviation breaks and retests, we had that set up today. We had trend showing balance here, so wasn't as interested in these standard deviation breaks, but it actually did work. So we had a break here, and we did not close above here, so that's not an entry. We had a break below here, but no retest closure down below, so no entry there. We did finally see it here, so this is probably the best entry per the strat anyways. And we set our stop loss at below TWAP, but we want to see a close below it. So we didn't actually see that. The tool here on TradingView is not very nuanced with how to tell it what to count as a stop loss trigger. I'm not interested in the wicks. I want to see like a full body close under TWAP or over TWAP, depending on which direction I'm in. So this trade here would have netted you very, very handsomely in the profits. We captured roughly about 1.86 on this move. Now, I did not take this trade today. I'm seeing trend balance and overall just no price agreement with the tick and what we're seeing in the actual price on SPY here. Add and Vold we're showing very strong, but even when we had this pump up, we're seeing that the add is actually having a bearish reversal potentially. So just a lot of mixed signals for me. It didn't make me very comfortable, but yeah, it's here. If you're just using purely TWAP as my strat video proposes, then this was a trade. So this definitely maybe might be a scary stop loss for folks. At one point, you're down 0.78, but you eventually capture quite a healthy move. And we hit every profit target. So all these standard deviation levels from the prior day's close, those all got hit, and even more so. So we didn't even come back ever anywhere near TWAP. So very interesting. There was a couple of moments towards the end of the day where trend disappeared, but again, we're just seeing a lot of divergences between add and Vold with their 20 SMA trends. So very interesting day. I managed to scalp some trades here on the session, but just overall not really the kind of day that I was looking for or nor expected given what I saw down here. So it happens. Market internals, just like anything else, is not perfect. Maybe this is a showcase of trend not really being entirely helpful. So take a look at the weekly TWAP here. One thing I was watching, so starting with Monday we wrestled around the weekly TWAP, or well, this would be the same as session TWAP on this day. You could see here. And the thing I noticed is every time after we broke below it, we rejected that weekly TWAP. And today I was watching to see what would happen here, which was the reason I took some long trades throughout the day. But we finally broke above. We kind of came back around. We wrestled in this standard deviation zone, and if you've watched my other videos regarding standard deviation price levels, you'll know that 68% of the time per standard deviation calculations, given the metric, the data set that you're using, which would be from the start of the week to now, we can expect price to stay 68% of the time within the first standard deviation, right? So this would be our mean price. Once we reclaimed and we really started to stay above the higher standard deviation first area here, this was like a pretty clear sign to me that a sentiment shift had occurred, just using nothing but statistical probability. So it's quite interesting. Taking a look at the monthly, also had alignment with the same kind of concept. So from the beginning of June to now, you could see SPY Monday started to break down the monthly TWAP. And we even had a more aggressive closure at the end of yesterday. But once we reclaimed that, that was roughly the same time we were reclaiming the weekly TWAP. So to me, that was double confirmation. Then we had the session TWAP that was also being reclaimed right about the same time. The monthly and the weekly were all being reclaimed. So kind of a bullish trifecta, if you will, to give me some confidence that even though trend is showing a balance, and we started to see some better alignment with the internals and the session TWAP, that was enough for me to try to take some trades. I didn't capture near this move here, at least with any intraday scalps. So overall, what does this mean for the next day, for the rest of the week, for the rest of June? Not sure. I'm just going to keep playing it day by day. Yeah, we'll take a look at tick levels here. So tick levels, yeah, this is pretty much what I would expect. We've got some low closures here with all of this extreme tick to the upside, which again is kind of odd, right? Why is SPY dumping while the rest of the New York Stock Exchange is rising? Beyond me, but maybe some sector rotations out of tech. Unsure. But yeah, then the rest of this is range creation, range break, range retest, and away we go. So we did reclaim Monday's high price, which was around 434 here. So you can see we did struggle around that area, but yeah, I mean, we just broke through a lot of data from last week. So we had these relative highs at 436. What was that, Thursday? And last Wednesday we had a 436 mid change. And that's, yeah, we basically hit all of that. So potentially more upside tomorrow. Taking a look at Qs, we had a gap up, same as SPY, and we did toss around that first deviation. I see something a little different here versus SPY, where we kept breaking below, and that reclaim of TWAP was never revisited. So we're on SPY, we had that retest after breaking above TWAP. With Qs, we really just went. It was a lot more violent, I would say. But still, look, it amazes me how effective this is. But just look at these areas from previous session TWAP standard deviation prices. I mean, that's just, it's bizarre and eerie to me how relevant these levels are. I mean, that candle action down to the tick, down to the end of the wick there. I mean, even this little retest here on that wick, right on the line. Crazy. But yeah, so Qs is one I was watching heavy. I knew that SPY was relatively stronger than Qs, but it was still being held back, and I know that's because there's still some big tech names in SPY that obviously Qs has a potentially a higher accumulation of. So if the Qs aren't going to take off, SPY is going to have a difficult time rising any higher. So in order for SPY to go, I wanted to see Q actually do a reclaim of its weekly TWAP, see how it was dealing with the monthly TWAP, and it had kind of similar action as SPY did on Monday, where it broke the monthly TWAP and closed below, and then today really it struggled until it didn't for whatever reason. But yeah, so this one here was on my radar, and just basic price action. You can see here we've got this prior level where we've bounced off of this so many times in recent history. So just seeing how that replays with current day's price action. Yeah, so we just had many different retests on this. So once that reclaimed, that's really where we went. And it's humorous to me just how many different things align with that particular TWAP retest and the levels and everything. It's all right around there. So again, just another thing I take a look at. I still use just regular price action, technical analysis. But yeah, so tech taking off, finally reclaiming that TWAP, and it hit all these levels. Pretty much had the same kind of setup as SPY. It's just didn't really give that standard deviation break and retest entry that SPY does. I've seen that a handful of times. I'm not sure Q traders know about this session TWAP. I highly doubt it, but yeah, it didn't really provide any entry from my standpoint and what I like to use. Let's look at the tick chart. So tick, not really much, not much to see other than, here's all of our tick highs, our extreme bullish high prints. We had a couple wicks doing their business, and most of the low end is really just in that bottom neutral area. So, and the 8 SMA just showing you we're staying above that middle high zone pretty much the entire day. We had just a couple of really tiny little tests, not even extreme bearish. So trend, I've past couple times where we've had this potential balance zone indication, but yet we've made a rather aggressive move on SPY or the Qs, has had me considering perhaps taking a step back and reassessing how I use trend. It still provides really good information for me when it's at the absolute extremes, the upper bearish or above, and the lower bullish or below. But I've started to use a little bit broader perspective. When we're at these highs and then we break back below, this is more of a bullish move potentially. I'm still looking into this kind of concept, but this here, we're still downtrending on the 200 SMA. So even though it's in the balance zone, because it's coming from such a high, that could potentially mean that it's not a balance, even though it's in the balance area, and that it's a better setup for upside. And I have said in past videos where if you're already in a trade from where trend is up here and it's breaking below for the upside for longs, that could be valid per using trend to help you filter your trade opportunities or build your thesis, because it's got to sell off on trend, or the prices of the New York Stock Exchange collectively has to rise in agreement with volume to get from the bearish to the bullish zone. So just as I've said, it doesn't mean up here when trend is up here that there's not a bullish opportunity. So even though today's in the balance zone, obviously per SPY, we definitely had a bullish day, a bullish trending day. So that's just one thing I have to consider for future. Looking at the ad, Ad had a little bit of a struggle today. Some old classic levels were absorbed and tested, and then we kind of fizzled out into the end of the day. And I think this is what made perhaps trend less accurate, is that when I see this, I think sector rotation, or something where there's a handful of big names that aren't moving as much as a even bigger collection of small names or medium names, what have you. And I don't have that data to really prove that, but there's got to be a reason where SPY is rising so high, even though the ad is not following suit. So that's what we had today, and I think that for me personally made it kind of less of a confident day on trying to find a trending kind of entry where, okay, I'm getting in here at tiwap or at the first standard deviation break, I'm putting on big size, and I'm going to ride it for with the expectation that there's a big move potentially for all day. So the volume, on the other hand, we got another one of those crazy days where the volume's just a ripper all day. Once the data caught up with the 20 SMA around 10 o'clock, I mean, that we never even broke back below it. Maybe right there, but I don't think so. I think we basically were above 20 SMA the entire day, and we had some extreme volume. So we've seen this before. This, even though this is extreme for bullishness, it's not the most extreme volume that we've had. So we've had a couple of breaks way up here. Oh gosh. Okay, we even had one way up here. Crazy. I mean, that makes this look puny in comparison, but this is still very impressive. So an immense amount of volume pouring into advancing names in the New York Stock Exchange. Since price was in agreement on SPY with the VOLD, I'm almost considering that we'll see more upside into the week. That's not a guarantee, but that's kind of what I'm going to look for. I will still be watching trend. I think trend is still a perfect indicator for me to find those primo setups. So what I would love to see tomorrow is trend maybe have something like what we had on June 15th, where we kind of still continue to get out of the balance zone. Maybe we do a retest, and then we spend the whole day down in the bullish area. So June 15th, if you don't remember, was another trending kind of day. So here's June 15th. And you notice the MIT indicator, we get a TWAP retest, and we had a fantastic move, albeit some chop in here, but overall, just a very amazing trending move. I mean, we from the TWAP retest, SPY moved almost $5. So I'm going to be watching out for that. Obviously, anything is possible, and I will most certainly be utilizing the intraday data on the internals as I do every other day. So we're almost done with June, and we've got quite a wide standard deviation zone here on the monthly TWAP. So we've got a 437 high to a 426 low, 432 mean price. Okay, so for me, I'm going to be pretty much expecting to see struggle around 437. Now, that's not very far from where we were currently closing. We closed at, 436 and change, basically 436 on the nose. So maybe see what happens, right? If we get there on SPY, watch for struggle or watch for price acceptance. If we do have acceptance, then I personally feel like the market's going to be caught off sides a little bit, at least a handful of participants, and we might see some kind of violent reaction as we close June and head into July. If we break out of the first standard deviation zone on the monthly TWAP, then we're looking at 443, somewhere within that range, and I do like to draw fibs in this area. Halfway point would be 440. I think that'd be a sweet number to land on. That's a psychological whole number. But who knows? But you can keep those levels if you want for, or set your tiwap up for monthly, like I've demonstrated here a handful of times. And just keep an eye out on these. I flip them on every now and then just to kind of see where we're at in relation to the intraday data. But yeah, so hope y'all didn't miss me too much. I do aim to try to get these in every day, but I'll be honest, it's definitely a lot to cut these up. Even though they're not too advanced as far as editing goes, it still takes a decent amount of time to do them every day. So I may dial them back and try to do like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday type deal. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Hopefully y'all had a nice bite of this action today, this move. And thank you for watching. And as always, happy trading.